Truth or Dare is a game we all remember from childhood, a seemingly harmless way to test courage, push boundaries, and share laughs. But for some, the line between thrill and tragedy has been crossed in the most horrifying ways. Across the world, there have been chilling cases where a simple dare turned deadly, leaving shocking stories of risk, recklessness, and untimely deaths. In this article, we explore 5 of the most bizarre and haunting deaths ever linked to the game, reminding us that sometimes curiosity can be fatal. It was supposed to be a night of celebration, a last hurrah before adulthood. On May 24, 2023, 18-year-old Cameron Robbins, fresh out of a high school, was in the Bahamas with hundreds of classmates soaking in the sun, laughter, and freedom at the Atlantis Paradise Island Resort in Nassau. The air was electric with excitement as the group boarded the pirate-themed sunset cruise, Blackbeard's Revenge, for an evening that would soon turn unimaginable. Music blared, drinks clinked, and the golden sunset bathed the sea in a warm glow, a perfect backdrop for memories meant to last a lifetime. As the boat drifted near the uninhabited Atoll Island, someone dared Cameron to jump into the dark, unknown waters below. The dare started as playful teasing, a test of courage under the fading sunlight. Friends reached for him, their hands grasping at his arms in a desperate attempt to stop him, voices cracking with fear and urgency. But Cameron broke free, perhaps drawn by a reckless sense of adventure, or maybe by the bravado of youth. With a final glance at the terrified faces around him, he leapt. For a fleeting moment, it seemed like a thrilling stunt. He cut through the water, swimming in the moonlit ocean, the cheers of classmates transforming abruptly into frantic screams. They threw a life preserver toward him, shouting frantic instructions. "Grab the buoy! Hey, the buoy!" But Cameron, either disoriented, caught in the excitement, or struggling against the pull of unseen currents, swam past it. The water around him swallowed the sound of voices, and within seconds, he vanished from view. Panic erupted aboard the ship. Friends scrambled along the deck, pointing frantically, calling out his name, their laughter and joy replaced with horror and disbelief. The crew initiated emergency protocols, radios crackling as calls for help were sent into the night, while the students could only watch helplessly as the darkness claimed him. The search was immediate and relentless. The U.S. Coast Guard and the Royal Bahamas Defense Force scoured the area for days, deploying air crews, boats, and search patterns across more than 325 square miles of open ocean. Authorities warned that the waters were known to be shark-infested, a chilling reality that weighed heavily on everyone hoping for a miracle. Every hour that passed without a sighting eroded hope, turning the initial panic into a quiet, sinking dread. By May 27th, after days of exhaustive searching and endless prayers, Cameron Robbins was officially declared lost at sea. His body was never found, leaving a gaping void that no words could fill for his family, friends, and an entire community. Back in Baton Rouge, the grief was palpable. Memorials were held, baseball fields fell silent, and the laughter Cameron had shared with teammates and classmates became a haunting echo. Stories of his humor, kindness, and fierce competitive spirit circulated among those who loved him, each memory now tinged with a sorrowful ache. Friends and strangers alike were left grappling with the cruel reality of how a single dare, something meant to be fun, could spiral into irreversible tragedy. Cameron's story serves as a sobering reminder that the line between thrill and disaster is thinner than we ever realize, and that even the bravest leap, fueled by confidence and youthful daring, can have consequences that last forever. It started as an ordinary night in Heysham, Lancashire, but what unfolded in the early hours of May 28, 2018, would leave a community shaken for years. A neighbor looked out her window and saw flames licking the walls of 94-year-old Mary Gregory's bungalow. Firefighters rushed to the scene, finding her unconscious in the conservatory, overcome by smoke. She was quickly treated by paramedics and rushed to Royal Lancaster Hospital. But despite their efforts, she died 4 days later. At first, the fire was believed to be a tragic accident, likely caused by a dropped cigarette. Mrs. Gregory was a lifelong smoker, and with dementia, her vulnerabilities made the accident seem plausible. The coroner ruled it accidental, the case closed, and life appeared to move on. But beneath the surface, a dark secret was simmering. Weeks after the funeral, during a game of truth or dare, 17-year-old Tieran Darnon whispered to two friends, his voice both casual and chilling, "I have a secret I haven't told anyone. I may have killed someone." His friends laughed it off, assuming he was joking, but Tiernan made them promise to stay silent. The words should have remained idle whispers of teenage bravado, but they were only the beginning of a horrifying confession that would shake everyone who knew him. In May 2019, during a counseling session, Tiernan hinted at the truth, speaking of a friend who could send me to prison because of what he knows. His words dripped with an unsettling pride. When pressed, he admitted to the counselor, yes, confirming the worst fears they could imagine. Police reopened the case, uncovering evidence far more disturbing than anyone could have predicted. Drawings of Mrs. Gregory's floor plan littered his room, labeled with "good hiding place" and "quick exit." Investigators discovered that he had set the curtains on fire, unplugged the phone, disabled a smoke alarm, and placed a table in front of the conservatory doors, blocking her escape. His searches online painted a dark, obsessive mind. Terms like under 18 murder, "I'm a murderer," "I'm a monster, and I'm going to hell," and "urge to kill again" littered his devices. The court would later hear Tiernan's chilling rationale. He believed he was ending his step-grandmother's suffering from dementia. Yet the horror of that night could not be mitigated. Mary Gregory, trapped by the table he had placed in front of the door, fought for her life, screaming as the smoke consumed the bungalow. Neighbors heard her desperate cries, and the image of a frail woman struggling to survive a deliberate blaze left a haunting scar on the community. Her final days were spent in hospital, her suffering compounded by the cruel intention of someone who should have cared for her. Tieran Darnon, by then 21, was sentenced at Preston Crown Court to life imprisonment, with a minimum of 15 years. Mrs. Justice Yip described the crime as calculated and cruel, emphasizing how Tiernan's fascination with killers and his dark thoughts had culminated in an act of unspeakable violence. The judge painted a vivid picture of the horror Mary Gregory endured in her final moments, a horror made all the more chilling by its preventability. This was not a story of a tragic accident, but of a calculated betrayal of trust, a dark secret hidden behind the guise of youth. Tiernan's confession, during a game of truth or dare, would ultimately unravel a lie that had allowed a community to grieve under false pretenses, leaving behind a legacy of shock, disbelief, and sorrow. It stands as a grim reminder that sometimes the most terrifying secrets are the ones kept closest to home. It was a warm summer evening in 2024, the kind of night teenagers live for, long, carefree, and seemingly full of endless possibilities. But for 15-year-old Zakaria Char and 16-year-old Ryan Al-Nasser, what started as a casual dare in a group chat would turn into a tragedy no one could have imagined. The boys, part of a circle of friends challenging one another to prove their courage, were egged on to jump from the 12-mile river bridge into the deep waters of Lake Hartwell, South Carolina. The messages pinged relentlessly, daring them, pressuring them, pushing them toward a risk that felt thrilling in the moment, but deadly in reality. Later that night, they arrived at the bridge, hearts pounding and adrenaline surging. The drop to the water below was steep, the lake dark and unknowable beneath the stars. Without hesitation, both teens climbed onto the railing and jumped. For a heartbeat, the scene seemed almost cinematic, a moment of daring youth frozen in time. But the lake did not deliver the thrill they expected. Seconds passed, then minutes. Neither boy surfaced. Panic swept through the friends watching from shore. Someone screamed for help, someone else called 911. Emergency crews arrived within minutes, but the situation was desperate. Dive teams scoured the water with boats and sonar. Cadaver dogs were brought in, and families held their breath, hoping against hope that the boys would emerge. Yet the lake, deceptively calm from above, had claimed them. Eventually, both bodies were recovered, roughly 8 feet apart, lying 15 feet beneath the surface. The community was left reeling. Candlelight vigils sprang up along the bridge, flowers and photos left in memory of 2 young lives cut tragically short. Parents, neighbors, and classmates were forced to confront the deadly consequences of peer pressure amplified by social media. As authorities examined the group chat where the fatal dare had originated, counselors were brought into schools to support traumatized students, while families warned their children about the dangers of online challenges that can spiral out of control in an instant. Rayan, a dedicated soccer player, was remembered by his coach as a vibrant young man whose loss cut deep. "I would give up every trophy, and even my life for him to be back with his family," the coach wrote. The grief echoed across the town of Pickens County, where the bridge that had once seemed innocuous became a haunting memorial. This tragedy serves as a stark, heartbreaking reminder that even a moment of recklessness, fueled by bravado and peer pressure, can have irreversible consequences. 2 promising young lives were lost in a heartbeat, leaving a community to grapple with the devastating aftermath of a dare that should never have been taken. It began as a seemingly innocent sleepover in Florida, a night filled with laughter, games, and the kind of mischief children often indulge in. 8-year-old Kihari Pope was there with her cousin and friends, enjoying the excitement of being together. The game of choice was truth or dare, a test of bravery, of curiosity, of childish courage. What started as harmless fun soon took a turn no one could have foreseen. Somewhere in the swirl of giggles and dares, someone challenged Kihari to drink boiling water through a straw. The dare seemed absurd, even comical, yet Kihari, trusting in the thrill of the game and the encouragement of her peers, accepted. She lifted the straw to her lips and sipped the scalding liquid. Immediately, screams tore through the room. The boiling water seared her mouth, throat, and lungs. Her tiny body convulsed in agony as she collapsed to the floor. Adults rushed her to the hospital, frantic and fearful. Doctors discovered the horrifying extent of her injuries, severe internal burns that had destroyed the lining of her throat and damaged her lungs. Kihari was placed in intensive care, her small body struggling for every breath. Multiple surgeries followed, but each procedure only underscored the brutal reality her injuries were catastrophic. Her airway had been irreparably damaged, and despite the relentless efforts of the medical team, her condition worsened. For months, Kihari fought for life. She endured unimaginable pain, a battle far beyond her years. A tracheotomy left her with difficulty speaking and breathing, each breath a struggle, each moment a reminder of that fateful dare. Her family watched in helpless despair as complications continued to mount, their hearts breaking with each setback. Then, in the early hours of July 31st, 2017, Kihari Pope passed away, just 4 months after that tragic sleepover. She was only 8 years old. The news sent shockwaves across her community, leaving parents horrified and questioning how a simple game could lead to such a devastating loss. Social media carried warnings and grief, as schools and families tried to impress upon children the deadly consequences of reckless dares. Kihari's story became a cautionary tale, a tragic lesson in the fragile line between curiosity and danger. Her young life, full of potential and innocence, was snatched away in a single, horrifying moment. A moment that began with laughter and ended in heartbreak. Friends and family were left traumatized, haunted by the memory of what had happened, and determined to ensure that no other child would face such a cruel fate. It started as a night of laughter and camaraderie, a warm evening in Sydney, Australia, where a group of young men gathered in a backyard, sipping wine, sharing jokes, and trying to feel grown up for just a few hours. 19-year-old Sam Ballard, a vibrant rugby player with a bright future and an infectious sense of humor, was at the center of it all. The air was light, the mood buoyant, and nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Then, across the concrete patio, a small garden slug appeared, gliding slowly through the grass and moss. The teens noticed it, and in that split second, the tone of the night shifted. A dare was tossed into the circle, laughing, teasing, and daring Sam to eat the slimy creature. Everyone chuckled, thinking it harmless fun, a ridiculous prank that no one would take seriously. But Sam, always up for a challenge, always eager to impress his mates, picked up the slug. Without hesitation, he swallowed it whole, the tiny creature sliding down into his unsuspecting stomach. The crowd erupted in cheers, their laughter echoing into the night. The party went on. Sam went home, thinking nothing of it, the excitement of the evening masking the unseen danger he had just invited into his life. For the first few days, nothing seemed wrong. But soon, a creeping sense of unease began. Sam's legs ached with an intensity he had never experienced. The pain deepened, spreading and intensifying, until within weeks, walking became a struggle. Concerned and frightened, Sam and his family sought medical help, and what followed would shatter their lives. Doctors revealed a diagnosis that seemed almost impossible. The slug Sam had eaten had carried rat lungworm parasites, microscopic invaders capable of devastating the human body. These invisible killers had reached his brain, triggering a rare and aggressive infection called eosinophilic meningoencephalitis. The disease progressed rapidly, attacking his nervous system and leaving him weakened, confused, and terrified. In a matter of days, Sam slipped into a coma that would last an astonishing 420 days. For over a year, he lay in a hospital bed, his body failing him, while the world outside moved on. When he finally emerged from the haze of unconsciousness, the consequences of that single, reckless act became devastatingly clear. Sam was paralyzed from the neck down. He could no longer walk, feed himself, or breathe without mechanical assistance. His independence, his freedom, and the life he had known were gone. His mother, Katie Ballard, became his full-time caregiver, tending to him around the clock. She bathed him, fed him, and held him through nights of pain and frustration, witnessing the vibrant young man she had raised trapped inside a body that refused to obey. Friends and family visited, bringing laughter, memories, and reminders of the life Sam had lost. Even as the guilt of that night, the dare, the laughter, the tiny slug hung over them like a shadow. Despite the paralysis and the relentless medical interventions, Sam's mind remained sharp. He understood everything. He remembered the friends, the parties, the laughter, and the night that had begun so innocently but had changed everything. He communicated when he could, smiled at familiar faces, and clung to moments of connection with the people who had loved him unconditionally through the long, dark years. 8 long years passed. 8 years of hospital visits, surgeries, rehabilitation attempts, and small victories overshadowed by immense losses. Then, in 2018, surrounded by the family who had never left his side and the loyal friends who had supported him through every setback, Sam Ballard passed away. His final words whispered to his mother were heartbreakingly simple: "I love you." The world had lost not just a young man, but a story, a life forever altered, a spirit contained within a body that no longer obeyed. Sam's death became more than a tragedy. It became a chilling, cautionary tale. What had begun as a laugh, a moment of bravado, a silly dare among friends, had spiraled into a nightmare of irreversible consequences. A tiny slug, a fleeting dare, and a single choice had stolen 8 years of life, leaving grief, guilt, and heartbreak in its wake. Families, communities, and children across the world were reminded in the harshest terms. Some dares are far from harmless. A single act of recklessness can ripple through lives, leaving scars that no amount of laughter can ever erase.